Oh, come to the list.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, Karsa. The Bachian Majashin, Kyopism Sobacharanga, some news and dinner Sanjit Tembayes, Tichila. Sanjay Sunda.
It's the Buddha stated in Sutra, do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely. This is the teaching of the Buddha.
I didn't do Karsoda. The Bachian Majashin say, Shanla Tawala Soba, and the Bachian Majave, Sutim Songi is Ersira, Sutim Songo is Timson. Kyopism Soba Chessid, Tene Medabada, Tungiada, Bamebala Sobata, Shirabia. Peg Kyopism so much over the essay. Rangi Semni also do it. Oh, Tedalitane, and it's also give a chola samlutane. Nikiwa choli hat and a troyak quebala soba. Sem quebala soba, Tizuba Shive. Things in their love goddess. Labasumli, I love goddess over there.
So, here the do not commit any non-virtuous actions is referring to the observation of ethical discipline, where you're abstaining from doing any harm in any form, whatever, any form of harm. And so then perform only perfect virtuous actions here is talking about cultivating wisdom, wisdom that knows impermanence, suffering, and selflessness. Then subdue your mind completely means that you are overcoming any well, it's the practice of the three these three then this third one then is overcoming any kind of mental laxity and excitement, so that your mind is totally concentrated and focused, and that is then the third of these three then represent the three trainings, I guess we call them. There are three special trainings.
Oh yeah, what do you do? Then Sanjay Tembayes, Laba Sanjay Song de Longitamba. Tilatene, and it labasum Nyamsalambadilla, Togbetamba, Sigara. Oh, Tinduko Garanzo, Sanjay Temba, Longitamba, Tuba Samba Comba Sigara. Longi Sanjay Temba than Jar, Sanjay Temba, Zengiora, Longitamba Zengiora. Oh, Longa Sumba Nashingi, Sutim down, Shirab down. Kiwechola Samluta, I think it's a Tesla option Sigara. Or the Indico Togbetamba Zimbarwa. Or the Indico Sanjay Jigden Kamla Chene. And it's Sumbe Sanjay Tembate, Soso Tabache, Samba Chene, and Zengi, etc. And in Zimba Nation Shiana Chinugine, Dambat on the pant of a chigins. Or the Hidundo, Dambe Chunyangi, Sambe Kulon, or Saturn and Samba shoes, or didn't do that.
So this is the teaching of the Buddha. Means that the Buddha's teaching can be divided into the teaching of verbal exposition and the teaching of realization. So here, verbal exposition is what we've been receiving here. We've been so that is what one studies and reflects upon, and then puts into practice, and then putting into practice, then one is practicing these in the form of these 3 special trainings. And so then we should set our motivation that we're going to listen to these teachings and today, listen and then reflect and meditate, and then be able to put them into practice in order to be of benefit to others.
Moya, tanganzo de kesa de inda. Ngaba rangjo la lakbar shimba pangbani sedra. Rangi chole ya lakbar shimba. Shenji chole ya tangwa chene. Oh, yang dak be chu yin di ya bu yin sam shen sha che. Shen di lakbar re sam chwa che be na ni ma di re sung do. Rangjo la lakbar shimba panggu de se. Kede ko doje tongba ni ji chone. Nyamdo lapshan tikdo. Kede koan doje tongba nyeji.
Kagi de.
Ngaba te ngaba. Oh de chuba de ra.
Jukba.
Sholuga chuba de.
Oh, Juba.
Oh. Kula rangjo chayu chense.
I lost my place here. So we're on the 10th, I think. The 10th verse, which would be, what is it, 184? 185, yeah, that would be it.
Timba. Oh, yeah. Oh, that day, Karshe was Tunda Rangi Cho Tongba Nitumba La Soba Sung to the Cho de Cubare. That Dele Shemba, Chodemba Drubayan says Chiriba, the Ashenda to Kanga, Yabu Mare, some Chagnangi, Sambagene, Rangi Cho in Zimbayana, and the Mandibare City Sungudwa. Oh, did you love that?
So then, here it's talking about that taking your own, what is that, position, or being attached to your own point of view, like the teachings on emptiness and so forth are superior to everyone else's, and then disliking or disliking non-Buddhist views and saying that they're not any good, then we have to stop that kind of what do you call it, prejudice or bias in us.
Oh yeah, that they show look at the nyamdo salabshaginda. Oh, kela rangcho cha yu shin sigdwa. Jene me kela nga rangzo tabula se rangi cho tongba nila lakbar chakba yu shin sigra. Kela rangcho cho yu. Shenje cho la mega na se shenje cho temba druba ma wala soba o tende trubda ma shenda la sigura shedan we mega na sura shenje cho la mega na sigura ene nyangen deba mendro de se o te mandor war tene tarba nyangelen deba drugu mare sigura chakdan ke samluni de mandor na meba masona nyangen deba drugu mare sigura nyangen deba mendro de ni ju sheware yong min jor sigura langdor ni so langja de la shenja dorja de la kelenge de la tawache o tinde ni chakdang ke samlu shawa do doye na ene shewa tarba tene top to mares de shege do nyangen de ba mendo de ni ju shewa re yong min jurs o do so o da
so then here when you read the commentary along with the, well, maybe we can just read the verse and then go through the commentary. While attached to your own position and disliking others' positions, you will not approach nirvana. Neither kind of conduct will bring you peace. So, thinking that the commentary then goes in, thinking the thesis of emptiness, which stops cyclic existence, is supreme and others are wrong. Others here includes other tenet systems in Buddhist and then non-Buddhist systems, thinking that they're simply wrong. You may be strongly attached to your own position and antagonistic to others. You will not approach. So then when it says you will not approach nirvana, it means you will not approach the liberation of nirvana until you discard this strong attachment to your own thesis, emptiness, and your dislike for and antagonism toward others' theses. Peace, and the reason for this is peace can never be attained through conduct based on the idea that both adopting and discarding are truly existent. The position that you adopt and the discarding of others' position is you're feeling that those are somehow exist from their own side.
This one. Oh yeah, tenas pedro. Tena tomzen gashi phagba gindun te kenye che de se tomba shundun ge kansan gashi liya phagba gindun te ge kenye ge tomba na res wara. Ene kenye che de chema ko kenye drup sa ne ani drup de shenda tramse chiru ba te zole ko kondu se ne te tramse tone sober de ba ge ba shindo sig do. O kondu ya omar duja re to asamje sober de be sem ge ba re se ko 초진에 고기니 동발란디 약부대샤삼 다파조 도조 챤을 차와친게 도조 약부대면도 삼네 당하기로 어디나 신제 만디고래 송거라.
So then the story that illustrates this is of a certain ascetic who was told by the noble Sangasena to hold a layperson's vows. So he took layperson's vows as a Buddhist, and then when he saw Brahmins and saw that they were harming others, and so he felt a strong urge to kill them. So this is the illustration of it, that he on the one hand he was holding on to this vow, and on the other hand he had, when he saw others through his dislike or anger, then he was thinking to kill them. So then we have the next, we're starting a new section, which is advice to strive for liberation. And there's 7 parts to this. In the first part, that each part we'll go over as it comes up. And then, so this particular one is, with effort, liberation is easy to attain. What's
this one, that is in the same as one you could do some jungle Tanguini
So we can cover each topic of each of these 7 topics and mention them as they come up.
Oh yeah, that tambo Ben Tarba Toblava said it is one. Bezuchigine Tarba to Lela Resti Shegdwa. Dako Sangul Kogiara. Okay, the young Ellen Debe Deva Tambane Shindu Tubla, Tarba Toya de Seba, Chaba Konkuban, Kalakabushidan Duasa, Tetobia Kaburese, Teleco Siba Koalia, Kia de Tandana Shinji de Bezuchimego, Lelabudu, Tele. Quite Juja Chagdan going to son the Yagadoa, somebody in Asagara. The Yagmare Serra. Oh, Canderesanase. Cheme Yange, Dajurshins, Chebe, Yansin Jurdise. Kemigi Le, Cheba Tamjela, Chaji Meba Kundu Chebe, Yangel and Dawan Jurshins, Cheme Yang and Dajurshins, Chajila Soba Temper Meba, Donani, Yangel Deva to Gurechera. Oh, Chebe Sedusa. Jajila Sobatezo, Jawa Tamje Chebe, Yangsi Jurdi Tesigdoa. Oh, Jenny Migiwala Sobe, Jawa Naso Chebale, Yang Siban Dubar Judi Segura, Chebe, Yangsin Dub Judi Sigdoa. Someday maybe Yangan Desitena, Jawa Tamjela, Cheba, Lodge, Sambada, Telbamada, Jajilia, Langdo, Tendelia, Shenja maybe. Many young Ellen Deba Toblabo Resgora. Shishu Kore Dewani, Delado Toba Membe, Koe Dewade, Delado Toba Membe, Kebe, ngedu ko ena ne kabri yaga kabri duga dunga na so nyone tire tele tharwa thoya deko le labu cheje dewane dewali androya ti le la grace gora ko samna tharwa thoya khaburesha ko de tande na shi de yaga dus jarwa oda de mare sigora tela du to me kebe ngedu na so je trimme go bar tobe nyange nyangde tondo nyewa pane ngedu na so je tobe koro tondo nyewa miriso so tin dig mare sigora ko ne lela bine ko tunge na so nyone de goresra tharwa to chungene ko dewane dewale alam komne andre yore ti yagare tilson yagare sungdo no dinde
no so the assertion here is we cannot attain the perfect happiness of nirvana because it is extremely difficult to do so. All the effort that one has to put into in order to restrain yourself and to give up all the pleasures of cyclic existence and so forth. But we enter cyclic existence because it is easy to acquire without effort. You're sort of saying, well, isn't it better just to enter cyclic existence because you don't have to make any effort for that. So then the verse goes, not acting brings about nirvana. Acting, again, brings worldly existence. Thus, without complication, nirvana is easy to attain, but not the latter. So understanding about not doing karmic actions, whether they are virtuous or non-virtuous activities, brings about nirvana, not doing out of a sense of attachment and craving. And then worldly existence is brought about by doing various virtuous and non-virtuous karmic actions. Thus, by giving up the performance of all karmic actions, nirvana is easy to attain without complication. So if you learn how to give up karmic actions performed through craving and attachment, then one proceeds from happiness to happiness, and then through that process, nirvana is easily attained. On the other hand, the pleasures of cyclic existence are not easy to gain. The idea here is that that you have to undergo so much suffering in order to once one is born into cyclic existence, one has to undergo much suffering in order to gain the pleasures of cyclic existence. So you're going from suffering to suffering. It's kind of the opposite.
di tama de kasure bena taba tobla gre mambena ne taba to mare sungiyora sa bena ne mebe naza mebe soyage top tuyalia ken mangbu yores tunji mangbu menda tindi tingiora ina ko ne mebe de delen deba mena e ko de mendona te ken tondo menyewa shino naza traege ken de tondo nyig marwa sigora o dire
ne 아주 양샤서는 네 멤버
때나 네 멤버 top 주바 라서 나자 멤버 당당용 알시고라 데 튕기 망부 께 망부 요레스 맨데야다 튼데 트레딩 망부 요라 요나 데 멘데나서 코네 멤버 께데 주 네 멤버 주 멘데나 네 멤버 께 멘데나 ane te 께 tonto 니 마레스 나자 멤버 때네 께도서 되니 지금 알아와시고라 어디나 시다마데 타르발이야 Tomde mane bezu chigmar bezu chana tokure setundara.
Right. So then the example illustrates that if you illustrates how if you make the effort, then you can attain liberation. If you don't if you don't make the effort, then you won't get it. So that it says if you want to attain some kind of good health, and then one has to do many things, depending on, especially to take many medicines and so forth. But if one doesn't want to attain that good health, then one just doesn't try to do all that. So it's similar to that. And there's one part here that I didn't read in the commentary, that this whole idea is, therefore it is unreasonable for the wise to give up striving for nirvana, which is attained without the need for tiring exertion, and instead strive for cyclic existence, which is acquired through all kinds of tiring exertion.
No, Taniba, Taki, Tunginaneva, the Tamadil, Tunshaki Bangazo, Tarba, Tandunye, Tabtelia, Tunshev, and Nibatira. Niba Koala, Joa Magomna, Tarbato. Tambo Koala, Joa Combura, Koala, Joa Gomna, Samson, or the Abbey, some Teletaya, some Tigravasura. Says I did Tandu, some man, and Joa Magomna, Tabato to Modesty Shagdoa.
So here, under the advice of striving for liberation, the second part, which we're going to read now, is impossibility of attaining liberation without cultivating disenchantment with cyclic existence.
This is the Tambar Chawachi and Mejebe Yangel Dava top to go to Asigora. Tambalia, Bezula Soba, attended to Yag Chawachi and Medu Asigora, Yangel and Dava and Jurisa. Then Jurgi Yonane, Tamba Chawachi and Many, Samlutane, Yangel Dava Juina, and they shown the Capsia, Tenju did Medabada, Dungiawada, Tendre Mambo Shag to a Chambanjila Sova Tezo Karjan Shag your Rescuera. Oh, Tenju did Medabada, Dungiavala so Tenchi Shena, Karjan Tango Senas Torua. Koe Chawatamja the Treve, Tarbatobe Chedo Koala Kyoaji, Tisha, Tentambatendeke to be your marde in a Koala Kyoaki Shadow, Koene Zudi, Shen, and then Medatung to Shag your Rescuera. Or the word in my Shagdoa, yeah.
So if the question here is that if not doing any actions at all, any kind of karmic actions at all, in a context of ultimate existence, brings about nirvana, then why are impermanence, suffering, and all the other good, as well as the good qualities of love and compassion and so forth, taught in this treatise? And the answer, it is done to produce disenchantment with the cycle of birth and death, disenchantment with samsara, so that one will attain nirvana free from all the activities of cyclic existence. Well,
no, yeah. But Kala did you mean bass? Tell a shiku Kala use a signi di shagora. Kansa Kala, Koa de la Joa Yuba member tell us, Kangla as the Koala Joa Yuba member Kansa Kala Sigua. Did you remember us? Koe Tunge, you remember Tella, Koe Tunge Shive, Tarbala Kuba Yungmares or Kala, did you remember Tella Shigu Kala Yuse? Show Tabala Kuba the Tom de Yungmaresera. Oh, Kala Yu, Kala Yu, Combat Tunge, members, Kakom the Tunge Mana, Echo shoot down the Nigmaritina Shiresora. Mebare, de Shive Tapsu, Combat Tunge, the Shive Tapsu, and Chu Tonga, Tondo Menua, Tonga, Tonir Chambu Media Nation Residua. Or teaching of the second Tambuni Dictada, Nibani teacher Yongdua.
So the first two, did I read? Yeah, I already read the beginning. So then the first two lines of the verse here is, how can anyone who has no aversion to this take an interest in pacification or in peace? How can, another way would be to say, how can anyone who has not become disenchanted with this take an interest in peace? So the first two lines said, read in the commentary, or explained in the commentary, by how could anyone who has no aversion or no disenchantment with cyclic existence take an interest in liberation, which is the pacification of all suffering, all the suffering it entails. If one isn't, for instance, if one isn't suffering from thirst, one will not feel a strong urge to drink in order to relieve the discomfort. It's like that. Well,
Rangim lashin seba nen dine jungwar chawar kaas edro. Rangim lashin seba nen dine jungwar kaas. Pena sigura pena rangi kim nyingbu chunya rangim soso kangba be gyobuje shiragati yabu mebe yina yasigi wara. Tele chakba yonsu che meniwa. Ate shenja yuzan tibe chakba de che tugu mar mebe so tugu medwa sigura. So meniwa shindosu. Lo chungwa namgi siban dine ngebaran jungwa tobar Kadese, Lo Chunju, Samlu Chunju, Ya Chunju Dozoge, and a Siba Koala Chakbe Wange, and a Siba Dene, Nebar Joa, Delecoa, and a Tarba Toyage, La Juba de Calacabure, Sigua. On Dine Jua, Chawar Ka said. Oh, yeah, Teneti Petelia, Pena Yula Seba, Mendoba, Temata, Seba Chawa, Tonga Dondonyavashinos, Coseba said the Yona, Michiko, say, Tanda Namsa say, Yena. Alanga kakumbudo chuchite se ko kangune chutoya samko resi gara o dinesh resra o tembe
So it's like the well, this explains the next two lines really, which are like leaving home. It is also hard to leave cyclic existence behind. So this is explained through an analogy. Though one's home may contain little worth, it's not very much inside the house and not much to be attached to, one cannot completely give up attachment to it. Similarly, it is difficult for those of limited intelligence completely to leave worldly existence behind because they are bound by attachment. There's the emphasis on those of limited intelligence and having some attachment. Like someone, the example here is like someone about to be killed who has not stopped craving things and says, "Oh, could you stop? And I need something to drink," like that.
This one. Oh yeah. That's sumba dirda. Again, doing nane. Koala nyemi shindo cheve. Tarbalan beri grisa. Ko je tanda neshi dena. Kyo mangbo yoya yorba se te indusa. Tele tarbe talam bena. Rigba res te shegdwa. Oh, shaya onju chembo nam yuji dewala chane kim mebonada. Benjo person soba yoga de tezu ganga sosu ene yuji dewa suda diru rejalo soba yuji tezu dewala chane kim be pane ene ne embutende lewa teje chutube beba chetu kumare wara komba tarba tobe chedu bebar menu kyansirwa ne da uwala sobe tungeje sirwa da korala kawa dora ridis ene ne da uwala soba tungeje nani tungele tendo bateda ene koe rungshin sonzade koale ene koala kawa de dora ridis gora o dishe gdo atan dine masholga de she
So here the next topic is appropriateness of striving for liberation because of the very great disadvantages of cyclic existence. So the rich and powerful, the commentary begins, the rich and powerful who are attached to the pleasure they derive from things may not be able to give up their homes and strive in seclusion to attain liberation. It would be hard for them to give up and to work at what needs to be done in order to attain liberation. However, it is surely fitting for those afflicted by sickness and poverty to give up their attraction to cyclic existence. Well.
Oh yeah, then that. Lala dunge sinenche se chiwarin deba ta nang de se tezi deda timuchire koba tambara mendur se shwa lala se de karsure kansa lala sura kansa khashe ulwa dunge sinenche de uwa da dukba da kyobuchaya da tene be yido wa tende da treve dunge chuni sigora dukba da travel sobe dunge ji sigi nenche se lala dunge sinenche se chiwarin deba ta nang de se pe dunge de masune oh, tene soso dale shenja da drene yani tele tarbechedo mele chombiada chunal chombiada yangdo chombiala soba rangira be mevso tende yungudo asgora gyurwa da rani chiwaran deba da nangde sura chiwaran deba da nangde se teze da timuchir koban tambar mendur se oh te kona tar daga nashin sigora ko dunge bar chene se dala chakba pangna tarwe dewa nyodu topge res gyora o tobashi na se te da langdola o tendre majeve che ene da langdola timu she cheve che nyangelen deba langdola mombe tobje seba tendre she cheve wangi ene tele cha de na nyangelen debe ko van tambalon ro topge mares mendor se to oswara o dichila.
So the verse reads, one sees that some who are overwhelmed by suffering long for death, yet entirely due to their confusion they will not reach the excellent state. So some people who are overwhelmed by the suffering of poverty, of being separated from what is dear to them and the like, and such people then will seek release from that suffering by leaping into fire or water or into an abyss and so forth. In exactly the same way, by gaining certainty concerning the suffering of cyclic existence and abandoning attachment to the self, they could quickly attain the happiness of liberation. But entirely due to their extreme confusion about what one should adopt and what one should set aside, then they will not reach the excellent state of nirvana. Well,
Medroa Shindusa, never Kashiko, Nada Yona, Naza de Trayag, Me Matuna, Nele Trigumar Vasiora. Oh, Tanashin, Yomongura, Chunse Sigine, New Condro, Agela Sabatos, Chunru Chimbayana, Zawane, Meva Soya, Tondali, Yembutamido, Shira Madena, and Koala Tretuk Maresura. Nyamu Tunjimbe, Yembu Madembar, Koale, Metara Osudua.
So, the analogy here is, without taking the medicine, the patient will not be cured of his illness. You have to take all the medicine. So similarly, even if one suppresses the manifest afflictions to some extent, through some practices you can suppress them, one will not gain liberation from cyclic existence except by employing the antidote which completely eradicates them.
Oh yeah, that's Shibadira. Shiba Toma Nine Nelu Jitan Temperature Mimbanese. Shiba the Garrison Tango Nine Nelu Tonga Jitan Kangal Dan and Digio Mare Sigora. Oh, Kora Kora Sebe Tarba Tondo Never Chava Yina Seta Sam Kogara. Kora Sebe Tarba Tondo Neguyora. Tiene Tetobechedo, Teconani, Tombani, Chibu Combe, and Digriva Sigura, Tombani, Kona Combe, Pam Kona Chava Regis, and Tombani Tanja Shen Digua, Shenda and Chimbada, Sudimda, Swabada, Tindre Mabush and the Karchi Sheku, Medua Sigura, Sudim Gitam Dajan Zechenas, oh, take your mare, Te Wambu, Kansa Wambu member yore, Dringa yore, Rab yore, oh, Tezo Panjaya, Tia Chedone, Chimbada, Sudimda, Swabada. So the question here in this
in this topic, the meaning of the fundamental mode of existence should not be taught from the outset. So if the question is, if one is to strive for liberation which ends cyclic existence, advice only about meditation on suchness or reality or emptiness would be appropriate. So why do you need everything else? Why don't we just go right to the meditation on reality? Why did the teacher also give advice on giving, on generosity and ethical discipline and such things? There is no fault in this. The verse read, first maybe we read the, there is no fault in this. One must lead others gradually, distinguishing between those of least, intermediate, and best ability. We have to distinguish the capacity of the listener and then gradually lead them. Well,
that is our Chimba member last song Shinsidwa, Dinla Sudim Sumbare Sidwa, Chola Nishiva Tarba Tibeshedo, Dombanila Sova Sumbare Sura, Tenatado, Choto Chesidwa. Casas did Tomar, Toma, Chimbetam Nudi, Sojoba so Pom Menuba Dala, Chimbetam Chavarese, Tambo, Sojoba, Shella Sawa, Sojoba Song upon two Mares and Gedilla, Tana Kena Shella Robert and Chimbetan to Gures or Chimbetan Gure, Chimbetan, Lonju Mambala, Lonju Chimbuyungus, Tindetam Zegio Resera. Chimbetam Wambo Membala, Sunshiti, Chimbetam what in the Wambo Member Tozolia, Sojo the Sobatsa Pamadonata, Chimbetan de Sungio Resera. Sutim da Combe, no Membesero, Shella Sawa, Bangure. And the Tombani Congursanaco, Nuru Marites on the Chimbajanja Tamzegio Resera. Oh, Chimbala Ness in Be Wambo Dilla, that Chimbaya Botane, Wambo Dinda was a lesson, tell us Sutim Sungio Resera. That Chiran Chimbatane, Lonjo Chimbayungur, the Kawachima, Chutimasuna had a military maritene, turned out in Dele, Kene, Lonjo Chimbayungure. This on the military at and had a military at Dalia, and had a military near to Curvesher, Wambo. Telia Sudim Gitam this Zegio Resera, Nivatilla. Wombo Chola Koashive Tab, De Konani, Combe, Tamso or Sumber Curvase. Wombo Cho Deliatane, Chimbada Sudim Chibi Chigmare, Koala Taya Shadow, and the Tombani Combur Sungio Resera. So Jubasumbatena, Ta Tarba, Tomna, Chimaroniam do Tado, Chodo Giber Churches, and Tutado, and so Koeni Messamlutanga. Quale Tarbash Kudu, some Tish the Tutado, Tarbatondonia, they choked the Jubaret, and this some Luton Sigua.
So, giving, the verse reads, giving is taught to the lowest and ethics to the middling. Pacification is taught to the best, therefore always do the best. Here, advice about giving and generosity is for those who at first are capable only of generosity but cannot give up killing and so forth, that can't follow ethical discipline. So you tell them, well, if you practice giving, then you'll have resources in your future life. So then they can. That's the advice that works for them. Thus, advice on giving is directed to those of least capacity who, for the time being, are not ready to practice ethics and meditation. Then those of intermediate ability, already practicing generosity, are taught about ethics, ethical discipline. They're given not to harm any other beings like that. Then since they are ready to take birth as gods or humans. They're ready to receive the effects of ethical discipline. So those with the best ability are principally instructed in the meditation on suchness, means emptiness, the means to pacify cyclic existence. So these are the ones of the best ability, taught right from the beginning. Thus, one should always endeavor to do the best and think, why shouldn't I attain liberation? So, and thinking over the disadvantages of being in cyclic existence, all the faults of cyclic existence, then you have to think, why shouldn't I attain liberation?
Kajaya Chimbo Chasana, Sonjama Jabiakin, Jabiada, Chishuk Sayata, Tizukanga Labudua, Sumbala Sonje Tab Dumba, Dumbashino, so that the Rimji Kansa Koran, Dagi Cheshiti, Chusungura, Kansa Chilaya, the Rimji, Temperchawa Yimbe, Tuja Tive, Drimbala Kebarchawa Tendosa, or Tuja, Pangajama Tiguramato, Kolola Chia Maduce, Shegu using a Razun Kanga Shagro. What in the Maris or to just do it in Balkavachagures?
So the example is of a king's 3 sons. In the beginning, they're taught to recite the alphabet, and then after that, they recite a treatise on grammar. And then on the final part, the third, is a treatise on martial arts, the use of weapons. This is what it means to be knowledgeable about the stages by which trainees are led. Since one person must be taught everything gradually, this means that you couldn't just teach one person everything right at the beginning, just to give them all the teachings right at the beginning. They have to be able to absorb them in stages. Oh
yeah. Tangani did Angaba. Togi Tunze dina Nangaba derva. Chidar Tiverin Basirata, Panja congestion Yatigures. Oh, Rishi Tini Tembe Nedo Mirunala. Negabrinlia, Nit Tombani Tembe Nedo Mirunia Kansa Tesulasgora, and Tombani Tena, Chaje Tamjela Coatamnes, Ota, Kewa, the Megawake, Kanga Minduate, Chava Medusa, and Tigbal, Juni, Niason, Tonga, Yanga, Resungora, Chaje Tadala Coatamne, Kidila, Kebar Mebar Shete, Tigba Chana, Yandro Droves, and Tigba Mopsan Yandro Drove, Tomare Kemegi, Le Judan Drebur, Cheba Tene, Tola Vesin, Tambo. Landreg Namshat Ten, Miguel about Kawashu Truviati, Tani, Ticheliani, Tami Rakvachita, Ticheliani, Tami Tramutangores, Tishegua.
So, so this next section, the 5th section, is stages by which to lead students. This is verse 190. If reality is explained to someone as yet unready for such an explanation, if you give it right from the beginning, then that person, instead of teaching them about the cause and effect of karma, for instance, that person will deny actions and agents, thinking there is no difference between virtue and ill deeds, and will go to bad rebirths. Therefore, initially they should be taught about virtuous and non-virtuous karmic actions, and about cause and effect. In a way, these are actually easy to understand. Then they would slowly be led to a coarse understanding of selflessness, and then finally, what do you say, a more refined understanding of selflessness.
Tandi suna member tangbur dawa sigdwa. Suna member mikiwe lezun dawa chuni, kiwa chup chuni, kibu chungi lamde sigdwa. Parto da ne dogba da se parto ne da ragba to pando ne tami ragba steng yore sera chine ta shikun do ba chine chotam je ran shinji trebe ene tongba to yore sera tawa kun do ba shibe kange shede keba tende rem je sheba de keba yeshe sungudo suna memba tikba la jukba tangbor do bar chawa yinde se tingi kaps ba be tangbo kansa de la kibu chungu de chig lamdene tikba pangure ene chimba tangure chutim sungure se te chero pardo pungbo namba ngar chebe kone jiksola tawa nishu shinyu kane ragbe tane dogba das pardo tane dogba das de ane pungbo nga yorba sogi pungbo nga yora pungbo nga botele ane chene dene suda mare sogi pungbo da mare sera suda mai tane sungdeme Talia Suda Rangune Sudan Demba Mares Sudan Metan Sundem Sula Dayo Mares Tala Suyo Mares Teta Shishek Doa O Dishi di Pumbungabul Shishi Shedune Shi Nega Sum to Kurichuni Josu Chudu Nishurik Doa Pumbungale Nishu Jigda Nishu Shego
Shiba de
Suda Mares Suda Mares Suda Mares Dushidam Dinam Mares Shegra Sudame Tala Sunde Mese Talia Subudan Demba Mare Sundan Demba Mare Suadan Demba Dushidam Demba Mares Sudame Tansu Sula Dayo Mare Tala Suya Mares the Pumbungal ba mete shegra shi doa sula da yo mare dalo suye ba mare ser sula ya nam shi ba mare nam shi le da yo ba mare ser
so first prevent the verse goes like this first prevent the demeritorious, next prevent ideas of a coarse self, later, prevent views of all kinds. Whoever knows of this is the wise. So these are the stages. Initially, they should be taught about virtuous and non-virtuous karmic actions and about cause and effect, since that is easy to understand. Then, as it is the proper time, they should thus be prevented from engaging in demeritorious misdeeds. Next, the coarse self should be repudiated by refuting the referent object of the 20 views of the transitory collection by means of the fivefold analysis of the aggregates. So if you take each of the, this means taking each of the 5 aggregates and then saying, for instance, if we take the form aggregate, then they say the form is not the self, and the form does not possess the self, and the self is not within form, and form is not within the self. That's 4, and then you do that for each of the 5 aggregates, and you come up with 20. Well, don't you say?
Pena member kebe nebala kyacho da numchu nazo cheba shino sudo
shenda de
shenda gare
de nga de dranka gyap yo what de nishu tamba de jela yo what de
jela dami tramo dame ya tembar meba tembe tanzi kunji tawa kun dogbe rimba kange sheba sudo this one.
No, this one.
Padu nambange jiksola tawa nishu shinyu kane serwa. Ragbe dame dan dogba chigre serwa ragbe danze. Shine ju nurung do songwana tongba ni tembe nurung do songwana kansa ge dame tene dame jan tembar meba tene tanzin ge tawa kun dogba tembar zimbe tenzi kun dogbe tembe kone ne tharba la tiwan jegre sedwa. Ye rimba de la kheba chagre sedwa.
No, so then later, when the mind stream has become receptive, the commentary is continuing. Selflessness of persons is taught, and by showing that even selflessness does not exist truly, all views conceiving extremes are prevented. Whoever knows these stages of teaching is wise regarding the sequence in which trainees are led. Well, start this one.
This one? Yeah. Tapet lapsare.
Bede lap
Oh, the bede pena member kebe never like cashew than numshu naso jebashino sigdwa. Member keba to the tambu nebalia, and a casere, Shazi Masa, Shamasa, and a chang matung sitting the labgirwa. Hechemaya so ouchas no water, shut as it is down. Shazitos to so set in the naso, Tomnaso Chibanashin resido.
So it's like the skilled physician who prescribes a bland or oily diet to specific patients. Here's means that starts out with this of saying don't have any meat, don't drink alcohol, don't have anything that's oily, and then gradually, as the person is able to adjust to that, then he says, oh, now you can start eating a little meat and having a little oil in your diet.
Oh yeah, that took ba. Ngobo kunji nelu thadu la ngoyo yawa me ba sura. Ngobo sangma thamje nelu thadu de la ngo mendra ngobo sebo ka na sebo na shi ke yo mar choje mendra ma do rangu ne tong ba di chig ba re de wara. O de shek do. O tharba lam kange top je na se. Kar to gure se na. Ngobo thamje ran shin ji trube tong ba tok ba le to gure se ra tharba. Ane de na ne ngobo mangbo chang me ba ra che. Ngobo thaye be. 대 중이자 타입 동반에 타입 버와 아니 대타다 수식이 쉐버네 최 상마 탐제 내로 동반이 수시에도 그래서요라 최고란 장가 매비요라 뭐 최지자 마셰신 마방바 타바토 메뉴 버송베서 최지냐 내로 타도 마셰네 아니 텐진 마바나 타바톱토고 말에 송도와 어때 근데 쉐토 그래 쉐토 메도아스요라 어디 겨요 말에서 딜랜작도와
So this next part is verse 191, and it's within a device to strive for liberation. It's one of these topics that, it says indistinguishability in entity with regard to the final mode of existence of things. So here. Final mode of existence means emptiness, so everything is equally empty, is what it's saying. By what path is liberation attained is the question. By understanding that all phenomena, everything, is empty of inherent existence or existence from its own side. So then, since there are limitless things, the qualm would then be, with that answer, is since there are limitless things, their realities are also limitless. Who could know them all? Moreover, it is said that one cannot attain liberation while there is a single phenomenon one does not know and has not eliminated. So it's just basically the qualm is, how could you possibly attain liberation? So then the answer is there's no fault here.
Teta chikbare sam tende ki tal tene to thuk biora. Tambu kansa ta me de to biora. Chö tamje teng tombani to yo marwa. Ina rigba de de chikba chene ne chö tamje ba kabon sama to thuk res biora. Ani ngusum do to so na chö je ki tombani ngusum to so na chö tamje tombani ngusum to sarwa. O de jilab dan de malo ni le.
So this is not complicated to understand when you understand, first, for instance, taking the self as an object and saying that self is empty of existing from its own side because of being a dependent dependent arising. It arises the self arises in dependence upon the five aggregates. So then you can, once you understand the self in that way, and using that reasoning, then we can easily understand that other phenomena are also empty of inherent existence because of being dependent arisings. So then when you reach to the state of direct realization of emptiness of any particular phenomena, then once you know one thing directly, you know everything directly.
No, yeah, ngobo chigi taboga, teni kundi tabur shesigwa. Ngobo chigi, kansa da uchi, rangshin ji trube tongba, nelu tone te, tabo de kansa te, teni ngobo kundi, chuni la tabo, shebare sigwa. Oh, da kanga to tungere charwa. Chigi tongi kanyba, teni kundi tongba nyese, ngobo chigi rangwine trube tongba, te nanshin chue shen sangma te tongzu chigba re sigwa. Te yende tingzi jabula, chigi tamze she gyurshin, chigi tamze tongwa diose, chue chigi nelu rangwine trube tongba de yaboji she sona, yaboji tong sona, ane te rigba kapyo je, ane shenda o te chigba sam to tugu re sigwa. She dan pakwa nangba zoji tingzi le, kange chue chigi, kone chue nam kun, migyu, kyuma migyu, drashin song me la se. Chue chigi, chue nam migyu temban meba chig to sona, ane chue tamze gyuma migyu drawa tende ton tugu re sigwa. She song bata ro se. Tiri ti labda.
So then, whoever sees one thing's fundamental mode of existence, that is, which is its emptiness of inherent existence, is said to see the reality of all things. This is comes about because once we understand the emptiness of one thing, like the self, for instance, then everything is empty in the same way as the one thing. There isn't a variety in the way things are empty. They're all empty in the same way. So then the King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra states, through one all are known, and through one all are seen. So this is the idea of just through knowing one thing is empty, then we can then take that same understanding and reasoning and apply it to everything. And then the meditative stabilization of Gangana Ganja says, whoever through one phenomena knows all phenomena are like illusions, mirages, and are inapprehensible. The translator had the whole verse here, but so it's basically you could translate it. Through one phenomena, it is known that all phenomena are like illusions, mirages, and are inapprehensible.
Shenam lenza chendo sheba shen, ngobo chige tongi kanyemba, tene kunji tongba, nyi to sigdo. Kyatsu chudi ko chojine tez tongsona, o de tsagure shasam kanga te chikba imba de, tongi hakon to asigora. Petina shiri chojig ne luta to tosona, te rikba de kabu ni shenda to dugre sigdo. Oh, te jetene. Tendon teni chwe kunji ne luta ase. Temba drube tongba de, rangwene tongba de, chwe tamze ne lu chikba chikja re sigora. Tela ngo se tar namba mendrawa mechara ve tyon hingi se. O chwe chik ne lu to na sangma to dugre se de, rangwene drube tongba de kanga chikba re chwe chen mendrawa ma do. Tela ngombo sebo nanshi yibdang kato sim dram mendra, tende yo ma re chikba re sigora. Te songza chi hako sun kanga hako dugre sigora. Cheba la tyo ne pumba tendon do tokba, Tini Nambu Tendon to talk with Capsigi or Marechera, Churchigi, Pumba Temba Drubeton Batosuna Kawa, the Chutamji Demeto with Capsigi or Marese, Chibasama Tambukawa Demeto, Teto Vanashene, Shandaka Chibares, and Teletenton to the Ese, Musum to Tosun Kangato Resura. No Tadebe Nang Namgashinus, no Tadebe Namgalia, Tonsang Namgali Chabaki or Marwa, Tinashi Resura.
Love.
그래서
So the analogy is here just that by tasting just a drop of seawater, we can understand that the rest of the ocean is also salty. So then that which is emptiness of one thing is the emptiness of all, quote unquote, means that this very emptiness of true existence is the fundamental mode of existence. There's the ontological status of all phenomena. It does not, emptiness doesn't appear in different ways as do blue and yellow, as do colors and so forth. However, one should not assert in relation to an inferential cognition that the awareness cognizing the pot's emptiness of true existence cognizes the woolen cloth's emptiness of true existence. So it's not like direct cognition or direct perception. Perception of emptiness, of non-conceptual perception of emptiness would be different, but this is talking about inferential cognition. So inferential cognition is like the space in different receptacles. So you have to understand the space in different receptacles. Well,
no, this one. Oh yeah, that did that because timber did that again to you. Then I change so some just so good by like your me bass. Don't buy you Congo Yona, Chimbala so we some just so so good, but there's some battalion, your marese. Don't buy you down, top the shit of Nicolok with a shake door. Oh, Tomja don't buy in Bear Pangbar shower, you know, say, Tomja run when the Tomba and Tomja, don't buy you some to told you that may have a shot to go ask you out. Then dollar. Kubarja de Sonam da Chao, Shesum Bachishina, Doegabsone, Sonam gi Sosa with the Chimba, Sutim Sebala, so come with Esse, Quebec on the Sundua, Dick, I think Gagdo some Nasigora, Gawa Meadows, or Dishagor and Dishama de Shed.
So here we're on the 7th of these topics, and it says lack of contradiction in teaching the necessity of accumulating merit through generosity and so forth. Here it's going to discuss that you need to have both method and wisdom. So the question is if everything is to be given up because of being empty, why does Sutra say that one should show respect and create merit? I mean, here, show respect and create merit means be respectful of the teachings on merit and set about to create it. So there is no contradiction here. Well.
Oh yeah. Churcha Tishin Shek Namji Turin Deva Namla Song Sigdwa. Chimba da Sudim da Seba to Congo Songade, Tangbo, Tongbani that in the Shena, no to Miron Tele. Tesungi Oresa, Giwachima Hada me Kovan Togore, the Echedu Shanla Sop on the Sudim Sungode, Longju Chimbuyan to the Chimbatangore, and the Sula Sobata, Corpusum Sova Yuan to the Sava Comgores, Sungi Oresera. Oh, Choja Tishin and yet Turin Devanamla Sungse. Tichilamna?
So then the Tathagatas speak of attachment to practices to those who want high rebirth.
Jebanyam do Lashana? Yeah, take on Jebanyam do Lashana. Take on you talk about Tanyam Suchana, nearly Tongbany Toya de Negabushan Esigora. Chinso Jechela Chagba, Tishin Shigba Namji, Nyandru Jigba Jiglas, Nyason Lakenas and Jigba Yunge. Janitelia, oh, Lada Milkiela, Chutim Sungure, Timbatangur Seva Congress or Esigora. Kinji Tramo com Menubanala, Medaba Tramo da Dunga Tame, Koa Tamatamje Dunga Tame com Menuba Tezula Sigora, Turin Deva Namla Songs, Turi, Lada Milkovan, some Toban Devatella, Chimbata Sutin Seva Sungia Resera. Tarban Deva Namla, Turi, some Tondonia Nija, Mebar Junase. Tarban deba Tamdo Namla, Dini, Manguru, Shando Music Quesidwa. Tarban deba Namla, Turi Lada May Koma, Dondo Negro, Tela Shanji Shanti, Dondo Negro, Sungio Maresura. Tarban deba Namla, Tourism, Dondo Neva Tinja, Meber Jurnase, Tela Shanji Chabacone, Dondo Nena, Mebe Nerese. Shando Dibala Chaba Music, Shando Tibele Chiala, Telegan Digmari Sungio Rese. Yangel Debe Yings with Chunam Japan Barchana, Chun Mimba Taji Meshisum Bador, Yangel Deba Tubde, and the Tongbangusum de Tone, Chuda, Chun Mayimba Tam Japan Gures, Sungdwa Hoti Badushan.
So then, if we read that, the rest of that, well, read the whole stanza together, then Tathagatas speak of attachment to practices to those who want a high rebirth. That is disparaged for those who want freedom. What need to mention other attachments? So here, to those who fear bad rebirth or unfortunate rebirths and want a high rebirth, and who are incapable of meditating on subtle production, disintegration, and so forth, the Tathagatas speak of attachment to practices like generosity and leave aside the understanding of emptiness. So here, so the Tathagatas they're leading them in stages, so then they will speak about that one has to practice generosity and ethical discipline and so forth. So, so if such an aspiration for merely a high rebirth is disparaged in those who seek liberation, what need is there to mention attachment to wrongdoing? Okay, so there's no necessity to mention what do you say, attachment to doing misdeeds. It says, if all practices must be abandoned in the sphere of nirvana, this is a quote from Sutra, if all practices must be abandoned in the sphere of nirvana, how much more so malpractices, end quote. Mal.
Do that.
No, do that. Because I bed.
Pena college Jabu, Dungshi Java Jungar Long Dambane, Kelon Shigeta, Derek Jurje, Mulam Tabe, Tembe Mabashino Sudwa. Dear Sanjay, de Carsore. Java Chamba, Mahoban Long Dandua, Nekelon Chut and Mahobana, Java Chamba June, and the Zambulan Penny Choco Rese. I did it around the college Jabu Tonsing get young with Ese. And the Cope, Pusum Sobachan, Kerale, the Kachandache, young Ellen David Chudun to the local Chudinshan Yabuchi Res, Long Dandua. Or the Nekelonchiga, or the Abudusum, Mahobana, college Jabu Chile, Java shows Malam Jagdua. Did Sanjay, Galonchen, Kuala Tarva Chigiensi, Sigurian, the college Jabuqua, Dondo Nevade, Mandiva Res, or the Aumaris, maybe Ness, somebody else, or this.
So then the story here is of during the time of the Buddha Shakyamuni, then he made a prediction for the Bodhisattva Ajita. This means Maitreya. Then he said, in the future you will be the Tathagata, the Arhat Tathagata, the fully enlightened Buddha Maitreya. At that time, there will be a universal monarch, universal ruler called Shankha. In this very city, while you are alive and when you die, he will make great offerings and will die as a foe destroyer. That means as a arhat. So there was a monk in the audience, in the gathering there, and the monk, when he heard this, he said, how wonderful it would be to be born as that universal Marnak Sangha and rule the 4 continents. And then the Buddha became aware of this and said, you became ordained in order to stop suffering. Having become ordained, you are foolish to seek this suffering, and told them, and really, what did you say? Criticized him for this. Well,
that's somebody nelu gitla tiwe rimbasi do yengo yendo sara nelu gitla tiwe tombani tonle panje tiwe rimbadila nga tonse nga kone shegdo o ti panje yungro ko nga lo moche ti tangbo derda tangbo ne me bala tombani tembar chawa memba de shegdo kangla tongni togbe tunge tada dona tuje kangla tombani tene tunge tuzun do yona te konani chikbu tene digirba sena shanda tengu mdoa shena sigora mindi so de mare shara no je chabala tebe shere pajo de tombani tengu sa yore shanda tengu sa yore se tuje ne kagares no membala tombani tena phungbar gyurde se tombani tena ani ko phungdugre se kyan yungre sungora yana ko tombani se de tombani se de yabo medo chedare se tombani tembala ko da gre sugora yana tombani re se ta kanya yoba mare samje ro yana tamje yoba mimbe tombani ge tendo kone ene le jumdel mazine nge son to tombani yugres te sonza tamje le tombani tembe ne de meron res te she tombani tena kyo yo res te she do
so here the topic is that through suchness should not we're at the third section here and explaining how extensively how to abandon or eliminate the afflictions, and so the third section here is stages leading to the meaning of the ontological status of things, the fundamental mode of existence, if you prefer. So then this has 5 parts, and then we'll just go through those as they come up. So the first one here is suchness, or emptiness, should not be taught to the unreceptive. Means those who are not proper vessels of this teaching. So then, if the commentary reads the assertion as follows: if all suffering is stopped by understanding emptiness, it would be appropriate to teach only emptiness. So why would you teach anything else if all suffering is stopped? Anyway, the answer to that is that's not so. It depends upon differences in receptivity. There are different listeners, different receptivity mean different vessels to receive this teaching, differences in listeners. If emptiness is explained to those who are not receptive, it will cause misfortune in a number of ways. Either they will reject emptiness, or misunderstanding emptiness to mean that everything is non-existent, they will completely, repudiate cause and effect, and they will go to unfortunate rebirths. Rasa, Dojisa.
Oh yeah, that's Sunam Debe, Tomba Nisigdoa. So Kunzi Chuber Chamin Dese, Nemi Nela Charwe me Tudunjua Mahinam Sigdoa. Oh, Tenicha Jusamba. In Ningji Simje Chesun Zimbabwe, and then Sonam Sabat Dungangi Kansa de Giswara. Tombani did no Madagbar, Dukunji Sikadu in a Tujakala, Tanja Marisura. Sonam Debe, Tombani, Kunzi Chuja, Chubercha Mindi Sigua. Nemi Nella Charu, man, Tutu Jura Mayanam say, Tembe no to Roma Maimbe, Tombani Tembe, ne Maimbe, no to Roma Maimbala, Tombani Tana. And it young grace, ne my imbar, Charu Manchambose, ne me nella Charu Manse, Manchambo, Chiyobachetebe, Roshin Buddha, Kachambo, Ponchambushida Yenaya, never kanga two young actually two shake mandate with mother, two men actually two shake meditation, and the medici to was or a young Gurvasura. Oh, yeah, Tana took to Juraminum de Yen Bashino, Pena two shivers me, two mebashilla tave, Seba Tarose. Two shivers magic, two men get the Latandu me, Seba Yungoro, Petina Shires. No.
So the verse then reads, those who want merit should not always speak of emptiness. Doesn't a medical compound turn to poison in the wrong case? So, so therefore, the commentary reads, therefore those with compassion who want the merit of caring for others should never speak about emptiness without first examining the recipient. Because if the recipient isn't ready to hear it, then it can turn bad. Like they can take it in the wrong way. So then the commentary continues. Doesn't even an appetizing and potent medical compound turn to poison when given to the wrong patient? So it can, what's helpful for one person, it could easily be poison for another person. So so then it's the example is similar, but not exactly the same. Where it says giving someone who has not been poisoned an antidote to poison and thereby killing them. That's what it. If you gave them an antidote to poison and they hadn't taken poison. Well,
oh, they but then my quality de Kungchitandua. Today, Gola Trations, Tambo, Sudim Sonia, Gavachima, Lada Milike, Tandalia, Sudim Sonia, and it's Bataya, Seba Comieto, Yabo, Chanta, Sonic, Kibuchungilam, the Abo Chansasuna, and it Timada Treva Cornation, Rechera, Carbonation. Tell you, Troy Janet, so you have Lingrava. Then a coaction to the share. Quale tanto chiesto ne tene giusto sempre tebato share o tende pangje droko res gora today ko la change do tambo chinso tam namge simla lekba ni ke de tene chone kombacha tene tongba ni tene ko ala ngeba junso yaboji shenso na komso na tene tekba chembo se de she gore sungdo se sungbata ne takbar chaos ne la tane de che gore ma do kangaji sungbak changma tamje kansa chil de che sen che toya yo mare. So then the commentary quotes from Matracheta, where he says, only unstained cloth is good for dyeing. Likewise, the mind must be properly developed by first speaking of giving and so forth, then one should meditate on the teaching. So so the unstained cloth here, the analogy is where you, through practice, you first give the student practices like giving, practicing generosity, ethical discipline, and cultivating patience. Then based on that, then once they have. Based on that, then their mind will become like an unstained cloth, and then they're ready to receive the teachings of on emptiness. So then this last line that says one should meditate on the teaching means that these persons are then ready to receive the teachings on emptiness. So the commentary makes the comment, gives the following comment: one must examine the recipient. They have to examine how is this person, is this person proper vessel or not? Well, Tongbani na dame ba de ke Geshe mugo acheche sungiyora tembar shade se ngoba da tumba temba chida la location ge soar menu station do jigden ba ma do bar jigden so anu ma yin sig do da chida la location ge Jesu song took Maris, Koran, Kandis, Kugina, Dinashin, Shekures, Gora, Rangi Kegi, temperature station do, Jigdana drug by Chinso, Jingobo, Lodan, Sambara, Tomar temperature, Jigdana drug by Chimbataya, Sujim Soya, Seba Comela Soba, Tinde, Chandi, Shekures, Gora, Lodan Samba, Tomar temperature, Kunzube Ngobuna, Chidar Neba, Kunzube Ngobuna, Chidar Neba, Temba, Jigdan by a Madobar. Jigdan to end Betemba Togba, Suar Nuba Mingi, Tambo Jigdan Nelu Nashin, Chako Chimba to the Sabala Soba Tezolia, Love Juni, a Mado, and Tombani Togbala, Jutugumares, Gora, Uma Juba Caps, Tanya Demba Taps Kurbana, Tanya Be, Kunzube Temba, or Tezo, Shiagures, Tambo, Tabres, Teletan, to end Betemba Shiagures, Tablechua, Tundam Demba Tabju Gurba de Shebadar, Kunzubran Lula, Kelan, Tundam. Temba Chao, Kunzu be Namshat to dance, Chimba to Sebala Soba, Ningila Soba, Tiran Lula Kela and the Tongbani Tagmurmada, Tongbani Tendu to Zukanga Map Session to your Marison Gora. Oh, did the Temba Chao, Pena Q, Cash and Pedrida, Pena Q, Cash and Kondo Chuba, Midivashinus, Pushunju de la Koran, Kosun, Geshe Gurmado, Mazuke Chimbu de Shana, Kukumarwa, what the Nashire, what the Badshah.
So the verse reads, just as a barbarian cannot be guided in a foreign language, ordinary people cannot be guided except by way of the ordinary. So the commentary on this is as follows: just as a barbarian cannot be guided in a foreign language, some languages that this person completely doesn't know, but must be taught in his own language, teaching initially should be in keeping with conventionally accepted things like generosity. So generosity, ethical discipline, patience, these are, what do you say, generally accepted in the world. So then ordinary people cannot be guided to an understanding of the ultimate truth unless they understand the ordinary. Namely the explanation of how conventional things exist. So if you taught them the ultimate truth right from the beginning, they would somehow feel that that all the conventional things didn't exist at all. So that's the problem. So then Chandrakirti says conventional truth is the means. Ultimate truth, the outcome of the means. It means that ultimate truth is what you get to on the basis of the means. So one should teach ultimate truth based on the acceptance of conventional existence in one's own system. So it's based on the establishment of things as conventionally existent, as true in convention. So the analogy is that you cannot make a child understand something by speaking to them in a foreign language. Well,
oh yeah, that's somebody that again Sumba Konazo Tembe Koba. Tamendra Kone, Chizumba Mambu, Koba Caresiora. Kobanin Jigden, so a top so tembes and Jigden, Dujanam Rim, the children were tabically tembe, the Deson Yoresura. Yoda meda, Yometa, Niga means 10 days ago. Nejo on the Tamjela mentioned you are my inams. Tatambutsagani to that and Azuchi. Never Tawa Pang Bechu, Dujanam Lechutam, yes, on your race or a Yodan said. Medans the Tembarzibet in Zipang Bechu, the Chutam de Tembarmes, and as a ton as you are my race, never sung your race. And Yoda Meda, Yomeda, Niga means as you are. Yomeda, Tanyebe Sheba, Rishigi. Sheba Soso Mola Tone, Yobada, Tanya Sheba Tondo, Kunzubechuka Yore. Tondum Tomba Yungusum to talk with Shojimola, Yomarese, Yamini Nigsungora. Niga Mimbas, Yomege Tartawa, Niga Pang Bechirdos, then the Mebaya Mare, Rangune Yobaya Mares, Rangune Me, Tanya to Yostisungores ora. Yomege Tartawa, Niga Pang Bechir, Yome Niga, Tembatuba Mishi. temper Yobada, Mavaniga temper to a means it and this. Oh, teaching love that.
No.
It's a anybody teach the Lamdina.
No. Chicken neighbor the ma.
Nibudi, Tambu Gode. Yoda meta, you meta, Niga member Shaja dance. Naja get Tamja mentioned you are my Antinium de Lashaga. And then did a Naja get said. Chinji Lord Shimbe Naja Wangi, Tamja, Tesseve. Men she chow and you are minums, Naza Mendra you do, men Mendra you are it, men does a kanga de, Naza say at Yondali, but you but a basungora. Nejo get Tamja, men she chow and Jurminum the Jurgires or take on in bed, Tumbe, Sung Tada, Duja Sosola to Tamja and Young Ellen Debe, Topsun Jurayino, Rimbe, and then Yaya Taba Tamja Timber Tobe, Topsun Jurgores or.
But so the verse here then, again we're teaching, what this verse indicates is the necessity or the purpose of teaching it through various needs, and it might through various approaches. Thinking that it's really the purpose. What's the purpose of all this teaching through the various approaches? So it addresses that question. So teaching existence, non-existence, both existence and non-existence, and neither, surely all medicines for all that are influenced by the sickness. So here, if we look at the first two lines, it says, as a means of guiding the world and guiding beings to eliminate views of non-existence. That's the first one. No, well, anyway. To eliminate views of non-existence, the teacher told trainees that everything exists. And then to eliminate conceptions of true existence, he taught there is no true existence. And so in relation to conventional awareness and analytical awareness, conventional truth and ultimate truth, then he taught both existence and non-existence, and that things exist conventionally, and that but they don't exist by way of their own from their own side, and to eliminate two extreme views of existence and non-existence, he taught that both things and non-things are not truly existent. So that he taught that all things, in order to eliminate extreme views, he taught that all things are not truly existent. Surely these are simply, so that addresses the first two lines of the idea of teaching existence, non-existence, both existence and non-existence, and neither. Then the last part is, last two lines are saying, surely all medicines for all that are influenced by the sickness. Surely these are simply medicines to remove all views influenced by the sickness of wrong thinking. Therefore, everything the teacher said is a means to attain nirvana, taking into consideration individual trainees, so that we can see how the Buddha arranged everything in stages that we can understand all the teachings by arranging them in stages for them to understand, leading towards this final attainment of nirvana. Well,
this one. Better, Pena Pinsum Shisuda, Pinja Sumbio in Barwa, Bala, Chigne, Rabdu, Chide, Rabdu Chong in Barwa, Kilonche. Nibane called Nujin, the Tuduchibashili Curare, Sumba Yidal and Jurare Sera. Or then you do something, Kuniniga de Pint and the Rabdu Chong Kilonte Salion Baresugara, and then Nujin de Lea, and then Chimbata Guebata, but Chudim Song Guebata, Chudim Song Guebata. Necarsore, oh, Miguel and Nami de Jungus Church Everesera. Yida de Liaco Chutane, Kakum Chute, and the Kotsawa Sigiosa, Meshivesh de Chute, and Senachi du Homare, Chimbatangures, the Chushabres, Gora. Or the Indico Kala Kandugi, Sanjake Chusungores, Tipera.
So, example of how the Buddha is taught each what is appropriate for them. Then there's this story about three brothers. One became ordained, sorry, and and the second became a harmful spirit with supernatural powers, and the third a hungry ghost. So these two went to their brother the monk. The hungry ghost and the harmful spirit with supernatural powers went to see the monk. So they, who explained the benefits of generosity to the harmful spirit so that he would know what causes prosperity. He also taught him about the faults of unethical conduct. And so that is very specific for that brother. Then having given the hungry ghost a drink to relieve his fiery torment, his fiery thirst, he told him about the faults of miserliness, being stingy, to make him understand his suffering. That would be the cause of his suffering. Well,
oh yeah, Tanganzo did that. Shiba Dirva, take one and you talk about Bebertamba, take one and you don't want you to Chidan Besuche or Esiegdo. You don't never saw you. Temba de Datamje, your race, Tentamber Mare, Sumba de Datamje, you made it Tade to Tembase, and it turned Tambe. Tambe Temba in la, turned Tamba Tiasta, turned Tamba the Chutenzu the Shake on Dinama. Yanda Tona, natural lasse. Jigelen Debe, Ishiji Yanda Bartona, Tombani the Yanda Batona Sigora, and then natural lass, the natural Tarba to Grace. Junse Tona, Sandro Dese, Jigdembe Kumjunda, Tursam Yeshirab, Junse Tona. Sandro de Lada Mills of a Tigrese. Teacher Nanda Sambala, Kebe Tado, Lodre Kesigua. Kangache Tadaim Batishere, Chinagi, Da Tombani to Sambale, Teacher Nang Da Sambale, said the Rosambalas. Chinagi, Ne, Da Tombani to Sambala, Kebe Tado, Lokeber Chagurese, Kebe Tado, Lodre Kese. Pena Kebe Portando, what is love da? Pede Yamdo Lapshana? Digdo?
Drigit.
Yeah, Pede Kebe Portando Kumbo member Dundo Bebashinosa. Or the Karsure Michig Yoimber Tabaris Lagan Yungiore, Kelonso Sal Yungiore, Kukuma Imber, Indukuma. Or the Koyone, Kelonso Kotaba de Yungutua, Tangajusane. Geshe Lenshara, Pendochi Lenshara, Nyambachi Lenshara. Take out Nyamba Carlingers, Tombachi Lanshara, Tombachi Sunse. Echo Tombasone, Kenying Tombana Ibere, Kenying Tombanande, Carsore. Socha Bangapama to Majimba Limba, Desmond, Loim Chibupangi Shara, Loim the Pangishanda upon to Meshara. Or then control in Imaji, Gabe Portan is a Kumako and Drimbara. Kumako and Dronitene, Permeji Tune. Kukumare Masamja, Contrumber, some Yapes, Yashin, Yabuche Ember. Ina co Loim Machere. And it take Halan, take Gabit, some to the Yone, take Loim Machi, Kusumba Resiguara. Or the Indico, Chicken Lance, the Yabuche Suna Nachi Yena, and the Tarba de Yarim Yutris, the Shagdo, or the Dujilam did.
So, the topic here is the fourth of these 5 topics under stages leading to the meaning of fundamental mode of existence, and it says advice to strive to understand emptiness or reality, showing how things are free from the extremes of existence and non-existence by teaching that they exist, do not exist, and so forth is teaching on the ultimate. So anything that's teaching on free of the extremes of existence and non-existence. Here the verse reads, correct perception leads to the supreme state, some perception to good rebirths. The wise thus always expand their intelligence to think about the inner nature. So correct perception, correctly perceiving the ultimate with supermundane wisdom leads to the attainment of the supreme state of liberation. Perceiving it to some extent with the mundane wisdom arising from meditation or from hearing and thinking leads to good rebirths. Then, thus, the wise, here mundane wisdom means understanding cause and effect. Thus, the wise constantly expand their intelligence to think about the inner nature, emptiness. And so in the verse then, the inner nature is referring to emptiness. The example here is of a thief who kept visiting a temple where some monks were residing, and then the monks finally said, please accept a gift from us. And so when he asked what kind of gift, they answered that it was a religious one. We're going to give you some vows, some of the precepts of the basic training. And so, however, he said he could not, he sort of said, well, I'm not going to be able to abstain from killing, stealing, lying, or drinking liquor. But I'll be willing to give up sexual misconduct. And so promising to give that up, he took one precept. And so that night he crept into the king's palace to steal something. Yeah, so he was just like what do you say, an addicted thief. And so then there was in the king's palace an immoral woman solicited him, but he did not accept. So when the king heard about this, he decked him out in the queen's jewels and honored him. He was just like totally, oh, this man. And so the what do you say, the moral of this story is that even if you can keep one practice, it has great effect.
Kashe magumna ni nyande tokyo mares ni shekdoa ta dambu de shekdoa kede de kona ni tokba kombar chebe kone se nyande tokyo na sigora tini shebe kede der nyangen de ba matobnya kewa shendum be mebar ngeba tumju leshin ose tenjin de bar jo troba tada da drebe te kona ni tongba ni shebe sigora kede kewan de nyangen de ba matob na ya sigora tini shebe kede de nyangen de matobnya kewa shendum be meba ngeba tumju se kewa shendo ane bezu chembu mego ya chije ngebardo ane nyangen de ba trachum be koma top dugure sigora oh te pedele ya pena amen debu mimba sone saben zugba de tu shendo yang shindo toba shindo am de se ene te son de Thabkhe ne ya chema maung bala sagyu ngdo ati na shin sendele ya kom de ma chune te wa chema del de mingres te shekdo mo te tsawa shirable sanje nam de banju shin nyando nam ja se na ran sanje ji shin temba me barab du ke se sanje chu song de ta tanda de ya nyando trajum be koma ma to na maung bala ne rangela sobatinde shun topgres te shekdo o di chi sheshan tu shena. Well, so
here we have the topic here is through familiarization. In this way, nirvana can definitely be attained, and so that's the verse that we're on, 197, is the actual meaning of this. Familiarizing yourself. The emphasis is on through just becoming habituated to understanding emptiness, then you will certainly become liberated. So the verse reads, through knowing reality, even if now one does not attain nirvana, one will certainly gain it effortlessly in a later life, as it is with karmic actions. So So here, even if one does not attain nirvana in this life by knowing the reality of dependent arising, free from the extremes of elaboration of existence from its own side, then through familiarity with the understanding of emptiness, one will certainly attain it effortlessly in a later life, merely by virtue of remaining in seclusion. So just you'll be able to understand. You will certainly be able to attain it in an understanding of emptiness in your future life, in a later life. Yeah. So it is like here it says there's the last line, in a later life. And then it goes, as it is with actions. And what does that mean? So it is like an action performed out of ignorance, the effect of which will be experienced upon taking rebirth. Mm-hmm. What intelligent persons would not strive to understand suchness? So the analogy is like after you eat a ripe mango, and then you plant the mango pit, we call it, I think, then you'll get fruit later on. So the Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise called Wisdom says, when consummate Buddhas do not appear, and hearers too have come to an end, the wisdom of solitary realizers manifests independently. Hearers are Shravakas and solitary realizers are Pratyeka Buddhas. Well,
this one. Yeah, da niba tini tirva niba tini shebe troyan kaji madruve juse. De kona ni toni yane yando komgende trugure. Toba samine shena ko komba majena truguma resti shegdo. Gede de kona ni shebe tuma yojan sebale troa tamina de kona ni shengende mambudo ani de koala ke truguma do asana. Lala nang meje sambasam debu trupchi menjawa tende de yorde sheba dan sambasam de ko quality je mare se wara gyujin chokba kuchi kugure se de ashin do nye ka de yane yando komba dan chi chosa tiba chan tende mabu kugure se wara de nye ka ware samshin pane chawane kunlan druba shinduka sambasam je chawa ganga drugu mare se dina nyangde me menje jordan trenam nye ba ka se Tena samshimbana te samjin debu chawane tharba mase kunlandu tharba de samba samji sheba samji drugumar de chawa sangmal tinde reso shandale tagare sewara kun bese sanje jitemban dina nyangde tondo nyewa meba minji se nyangde tondo nyegore tedana chi jin keweshini da nange tunji yela cheba yane yando kombala soba ane gyujin kun jorshin treba de kale kakbode te sonza sheba samji trugyo ma kashe trug ma chaba me true ti re sora ti chere troa nam nye kawa yino se pena jene tumu chandagba shinde dreba taros da de jagare kejine da rigma we pomochi sigdwa rigma we pomochi ko hagan droer bichi jaga tu ro chok me do rigma tu hagan ro chok me do tinde de jimbada ko ma rigma ro chok chene ko chilo de chanda te son da dide che di chilap shio ma do nalo ro phyo ya ma re chara so la men ta nga rigma bi nga do ne dig ma re samje tengi yore se ora che so jo nge nig ma re sam de na mandi ba re se ora ne ba che yan yan do kombures ti sa ta de
ko dende je tu masa
제가 나로 도톱게 와 말아 다들 계신 분께 말아 chilo de ko de ma do ko nalo ro chok ba yina kontro phyo yo ma nga rigma wa yin sam ge ora rigma de laganan ro chok yo ma re jaga yina dire so la mere nga no gi mare sam na de gi mare se yan yan do kom thaba thop tu re sam ko re tang la nye ba so ne gi mare sam ge yo ma re se ora da de 계신 분 me do da session
so then the verse here is 198, and we're why some do not gain release, although release is gained by understanding suchness. It's some people have just a what do you say? sometimes people refer to it as an intellectual understanding, so that then they don't attain release. Intellectual understanding based on study. So then there, if there are many who understand suchness, why does one not see people who are released from worldly existence? So then, though one does see some, mere intention does not create results. The coming together of causes and conditions does, yet this is very rare. So various causes and conditions are such as, what do you say, a lot of merit and so forth. So here the verse reads, accomplishment of all intended actions is extremely uncommon. It is not that nirvana is absent here, but conjunction and the released are rare. So for the conditions to come together and bring about actual liberation, that's rare. So the accomplishment merely through intention of actions that result in as intended is extremely uncommon. Not only in the case of liberation, but in all cases. And we can see that everybody can be intending something, but not everybody is successful, right, in bringing it about. So it is not that no one aspires to attain nirvana in the Buddhist teaching, but that causes and conditions, or external causes, such as having a good spiritual teacher, and internal causes such as a correct mental approach. Here it's saying we had this same phrase as incorrect, but this is talking about having a correct way of thinking, right? Very seldom combine all these causes and come together, and so then this is why the released or the liberated are rare. And the idea is illustrated by this one woman in a what do you say, a low caste in India, the Kandala, the woman, it says here, was innocent of the theft of which she was accused. She said, because I am Kandala, I am low caste and must lick the iron by the temple. But she could not bear to do so. But had she done it, she would have been cleared of the suspicion that she had done wrong. So anyway, that's the example. That basically, because of it's because of her own, what do you say, thoughts, her own way of thinking, that, I mean, everybody is able to attain liberation, but she just was limited by her own thinking, oh, I'm of low caste, like that, something. Well,
Ngebado nyumo pang tu gresi do. Kedo yiring bo thoma meba ne shube nyumo be son de la seba yodo sheja chidar shinge nushna. Tewa thoma meba ne che nyumo lu kom dere te segi yo se de kanda she to do sigora. Oh tene te la jabje chidar rang lu la yiring bo longjo na zo je se jan se lu la yende me te ne se din ser do. Yiring bo se jan ane jigbe chojen cheba jigbe chojen Cheba meshe kegawandi to shebe keba namla yönden mebar töne lula chakbe döja yönrindu minetesi. O lula keba tezo samlutan sosu lula chakba jigi yo maresi gora chakba yönrindu neg maresi gdo. O deshindu tenjun trebe tadan trewa yönrindu kumgi ina ane nyomo samma tamje sebar juwade ngebar se tupgi resi gdo. O di karsure lula yönden me tönen döja yönrin mineti lamde nyeji tamje jan sebaran jurwa mayinam ngebardu se tupgi resi gdo. Oh. Tilabda.
So this next verse 199 says, advice that disturbing attitudes and emotions can certainly be brought to an end. So, how can one be sure, the question here is, how can one be sure that there is an end to this multitude of afflictions, and which have continued to occur for so long, since beginningless time? How can we be sure? So the verse reads, on hearing that the body lacks good qualities, attachment does not last long. Will not all afflictions end by means of this very path? So when the intelligent, who know how to think analytically, they have good wisdom, hear that the body lacks good qualities, in that its nature is to disintegrate no matter how long it is cared for with all kinds of things, that it is ungrateful and difficult to nurture, their attachment to the body does not last long. So similarly, why should it not be possible to end all the afflictions through the path that consists of meditating on dependent arising, free from the extremes of elaboration of things as existing from their own side? Since one certainly can put an end to them, one will attain liberation.
This one. Oh yeah, did it. Pena Zanake Sigurgi says Jungse Jumne Sedra. Tabdi Sermambo, Jumne so Yamne Jungse de Dorashindo, Kebe Lula Yonde Meberton Shabadwaja, Tirva. Oh, the Zanake Michi Doa, and the call Sigurgi said Trubduazi. Serin Juagi, Jam Tuya Yorba, and the Charlie Chush and the Secha Yora. They go Sigurgi said Jumne. And it was so to say so to him. Oh, Tananda may do some tea, you shall Tange Mambusa do some jet. And he said to the Chunga, you shall rescue. Then I see Lula Chabate Conguena, and the Lula Chabate Shashag, or Dange Topsare, some Tarbatopsare, some Oh, then the
yeah, an example of being able to give up your attachment to your body through contemplating on those things is like a Kanaka is the name of a man, made a little gold with his gold-producing elixir. He got this, sometimes we call it philosopher's stone. Then he knew he could make a lot of gold this way, so then he just threw away the small piece. He didn't have any attachment to this small piece, so that's the same idea.
Oh yeah, that did it. Sumba, young si chimere. Nizam Joe, Jawa Toma Media, Jawalia Toma Gayo Marida, Tayore Sigora, Tayobe Petengiora. Toma maybe June should be Jave June Chider Tayoban Yushina, Toma Mevane, Javala Yudo, Zoya Condesio Sigora. Oh, Tizoya Yodese, Chider Sabian Tatonshin, Tela Toma Yumia. Sabin Regine Chigi Damaya and do Sabin Yores. Jema go Sabin de made second of Chesona, Taco Maumber Kigum in the Chagi Duasigora. Oh, dinner Shinko, Jawatoma Yombina Judicabayena, and go do this Sigora. Chider Sabin Tatonshi, Tela Toma Yumedar, Tama Yune, Toma Yomare. Tishi Juni Masanche, Jawan Joan Menduro. Tanzinda Yamo Kondo Yamo the Sass on it, Joyongo Maresigora. That she there Nella so be Sabe made sick basole, Taton Shin, Sera, del Tatsome, Zoya Yubaton Shin. Della Toma Yuba member that addition to Nimbut of the Kansagi Danzin, Sabra Pangbe, Sibari Kive, Juni, Masanvich, Yamo the Saber the Tuzumana, and Joan Jewish Sangi Madimana, Jolang Maresura. Then you young Sibari Joan Joan Minjuro say. Then Marmit Sebe Mijuashida, Marmit of Chinako, Jujin the Yona Barde, Jujin Manum Zosona, Echo Zogu Atina Shedesigua. Oh, Dilla.
So then, here the final verse of this chapter is on showing by analogy that the birth connecting one with the next existence is beginningless. It has an end. And so, so then the doubt is here expressed in the question, how can the continuity of rebirths occurring since beginningless time come to an end? So the verse then reads, just as the end of a seed is seen though it has no beginning, when the causes are incomplete, birth too will not occur. So when there's no causes of birth, which means you're eliminating the afflictions of hostility and attachment and so forth, then the effect of rebirth will not occur. So although a seed such as a barley seed has no beginning, its end is seen when it is burnt by a fire and the like. Similarly, the causes for birth in worldly existence are made incomplete by eliminating all conceptions of a personal self. So through selflessness, through understanding selflessness. Thus, through the strength of the antidote, rebirth in worldly existence or cyclic existence due to contaminated karma and afflictions will not occur again. It is like once a butter lamp's fuel is exhausted, it will not burn. It is exhausted, it will not burn. Well,
yes, sir. Is there a
little time we're pushing it?
He's over, but I'm letting him go.
That's a talk to Tana Yamaro.
Draw Tongba Simi Geshe, draw Rangshinji Tongba Simi, in a Tongba Yeshe, draw Dungese Chedu Shandula, and the Kadu in a Zumba Zegi or Resura, draw Dungese Sheba. Teni Yurin Yamoga, Teni Choto Mezo, or Teta Bizavate Che Choto Medu or Resigora. Shesumban draw Rangshimeba Toya Simjangi, Dela Chore, Chanju Simbe Chebane, Choto Medu Choya, Rani Janteches Labarshawas, or Tongbani Yenaya. Tenzi Rebar Junga Assembly Simjan Tungaji Narwa, Nijikela Sobayore, a Chanju somebody, to somebody, Meduchon Chebare, Maranzo Titan Daria, Cheso Lovia, Tashi Sungudoa. Oh, and then dear Mabase, Lege, Lami, Koba, Chotop Janse, Sadami Kovan Chotoja. Sora Suben, Dushi Kecha, the Sadami Kovantia, Tungaji Ranshi, Sorana Subanesha, some Hakuachi Sungora. Tenjun Tate Comba Yes, or Tired on the Tenji Rebarjuma, Tongbani Comba Tennis, Rani Tijin to Romarchas, Rani Tawachim Bukansagi, Tapden Shir of Nigal Lom Gangi Channel, Super Chisho Sungua, and the duets which was Louis and the Machanjus and Betreba, Shigab and Namshe, like Barshe, Ningbushi, Loma Yonso Chonve, Tapden but the Rabdicheva Kevin Rebasa, or Dendisha. I also.
So the Master Buddha Palita says, though seeing beings as empty, since you wish to remove their suffering, you have toiled for a long time. This is most amazing. So seeing that they lack any existence from their own side, even though you see them, it's like you're able to toil for a long time. Means you make effort for a long time. And this is most amazing. The explanation of this is as follows: the deeds of bodhisattvas who are concerned with the welfare of sentient beings, though they see that they do not exist inherently, are most amazing. So then, therefore, one should emulate them. We should, see what they're doing and then take it to heart and do it ourselves. So thinking very respectfully, this is most amazing. So then the summarizing stanza for this particular chapter, which ends this particular chapter, then says, develop recognition that through contaminated karmic action, even to attain the best states as gods and humans, is imprisonment. So, through familiarity with meditation on dependent arising that is free from the two extremes, make yourself a suitable vessel for the great vehicle. This is the 8th chapter, the end of the 8th chapter, the one on training the student. So that finishes it. Very good. Get to finish it.
Gone nge logi yeshe, deshe jabu ma reshe. Dem deshe koran dindo loksuchi yo reshe.
Yine go kawa do the.
Deke go ma deshe jabu ma de. Joshua Adam je.
Okay. I don't have to say it. And again, let's going to give a what do you say? Read the following as a kind of what do you say? Good omen for the future.
Oh, gangring order shindo karwe keso la yishin norsung. Dogu jungwe shirsung ba sadin dina kunjin Yeshe ne rabjaba doya lama tunga shabla chachalo sanje sungda yeba tawe mikchibu jabe sungrab kunji nyingbu tartu so tupden yong tupden tsokbar trene kunjin sarshiba gombo lu drub shabla kusum kuben du shunu tu ne mangte parusun pada yebe lodre kemba ke kange loye sibe kuba chom sangbe tuji shive kuba sel takbe yojin drove mongba sel Chizun yapse shabla chivin du. Shingda chimbo sheba toka na rani lekshe komba pechir ta. Kenden shenla yang pembar chave chir tenju chimbo namshe toare cha. Was? No, to chitan deso.
It indicated that you're taught it. No, it's not necessary again not to read it, but it's referred to as the prologue in the translation.
That's what I'm going to say.
We don't want to get everybody angry here. So I know.
We immediately want to request
Lamsang did the Shugyo, Dusan, Yankir Peranang, Yankir Triranang.
Oh, yeah, that's
We are not satisfied.
Concert Simba song.
That's all.